Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So in today's head-to-head comparison, let's take a look at the 2025 Volkswagen Taos and the 2025 Honda HRV. I borrowed the Honda from Flo Honda of Statesville, so take a look at their link. That is down in the description below. Well, let's move on to the starting MSRPs. For the Volkswagen, these start right around $24,900 versus closer to $26,000 for the Honda. In today's review, this Taos is closer to $36,000 versus just over $30,000 for the Honda. That is about as expensive as the Honda is going to get with options. But moving on to what powers both of these now, the Taos has a 1.5 liter 4-cylinder turbo paired to an 8-speed automatic, and it pumps out 174 horsepower, 184 pound-feet of torque. The Honda has a 2-liter 4-cylinder paired to a CVT, and it pumps out 158 horsepower, 138 pound-feet of torque. Now the Honda weighs in around 3,200 pounds versus closer to 3,400 pounds for the Volkswagen. 0 to 60 is going to be closer to 7 seconds for the Taos, right over 9 seconds for the Honda. Now the Taos is all-wheel drive, the Honda is front-wheel drive, however both of these are available with each of those systems. And then as far as fuel economy goes, you're looking at 24 miles per gallon in the city, 29 out on the highway for the Volkswagen, and then 26 and 32 for this Honda. Now working our way to the exterior styling, these have much different looks, as you can tell. The Volkswagen just has a more bold and wider appearance to it, especially with the lower grille. You get a distance sensor with the Volkswagen badge, LEDs up front, there's parking sensors in the lower section, and then a lot of cutouts. And then over on the Honda, this still retains a lot of cutouts. You just have a much smaller upper grille there. And then there's no distance sensor or parking sensors for this model, but you do have the LEDs for the lighting. And then very nice lines that come down the hood on both of these models. And then working our way to the side, very basic wheel setup for both of these models, finished off in gloss black. You will notice that each have plastic for the fender arches. It's also in the lower side skirts there. And then as we take a step back, you'll notice that the Volkswagen has a crisp line that runs right through the middle there versus being a little bit more laid back and subtle with the Honda. I think both have a great look to them, however. You will also notice too that up top, there's no sunroof for the Honda. Over on the Volkswagen, you get a full panoramic roof. And then working our way to the back, this has a body colored spoiler. You have the third brake light, wiper blade, LEDs, backup camera, sensors, and then there's no power liftgate, but you can easily open this up where you have a good bit of space. There's also a spare underneath the floor with additional storage, and then you can also fold down the back seats to get that much more interior space. And then for the Honda, you have the same spoiler, third brake light, the wiper blade in the lower section. There's LEDs. You have a visible exhaust on that passenger side, and then of course you have the backup camera as well. No power liftgate for this, however I'd say you still have a good bit of space. You can lift up the floor where you have the compartments there, you can place some items. This also has the spare tire located underneath that, so that's a really nice use of space. And then of course you can fold down these back seats too to get that much more space for it. Now working our way to the back seats, where this is going to be the biggest comparison. Interiors are going to vary, of course, just depending on the spec that you go with. But at 5'10", I have a good bit of space. There's also vents. You have one USB-C, a little bit of storage there, and then I have about 2 inches or so of headroom. Now these seats are fixed, but they recline just slightly, so that way it gives you a comfortable feel. And then right in the middle, you are going to have the armrest with cup holders, and you can even fold down this middle section here to gain access into the back if you need it. And then there's also the large cargo windows there, just to give you some better visibility around that. And then working our way to the back seats for this Honda, a little bit different design as you can see. You still get some storage down below, and then much different design for the seats. They are cloth, which is a big difference. But at my height, I still have plenty of room. You have a little bit of storage, and that is it in the middle. And then I have roughly the same amount of headroom, to be honest. Now these seats are also fixed, but they're reclined slightly too, just to give you a comfortable feel. And then you'll notice that this back seat has a 60-40 split. So the middle is fixed. There's also no armrest there. And you do have a little bit smaller of a window right here, but you can still see around that pillar. And then let's work our way up front now, where this has all of the window controls, side mirror adjustments, you have storage down below, and then a manually adjusting front seat here. Still has a great look to it. And then as we start this up, that button is located on the lower right. This has a leather steering wheel. You'll notice too, all of the cruise control settings. This does have distance pacing, so that sensor is very well hidden up front. You have lane keeping assist too, and then on the left side, you have volume, tuning, voice commands, and then you also have a home control, and you can swipe through some information over on that left side. So by using these arrows, you can get into your home setting there, and then scroll through a good bit on that side. The rest of the gauge cluster is going to be fixed, however, but you can at least go through a good bit of information within the gauge cluster itself. Now on the left side, you have traction control with one air vent, and then with the infotainment system, it is fairly small here, but it looks like you have some controls in the lower section, and you can use that dial there to further go through this. So it seems pretty basic, but at least you can pair your phone to this system. You have audio adjustments, and you can get through that. There's an air vent underneath that. A really easy layout for all of the climates. Where you'd like the air to go, your temperature, fan speeds in the middle. This does have heated seats too, and then you get a little bit of storage with an auxiliary and cup holders. This also has just the backup camera, but you do have a few different angles there, just depending on what you need to see. There's also sport mode and a low range gear, so you can go into those, and you do have different driving modes as well. So there's normal, eco, and a snow mode. And then you'll notice a downhill assist, you have auto hold and the e-brake. You get a little bit of storage with an auxiliary, and then you have a little bit of storage in the armrest there, as well as in the glove box. And then up top, you have the rear view mirror and dome lights. And then here's a look at visibility. It's pretty easy to see over both shoulders. So even with that small glass there, you maybe have a little bit of a pillar, but your side mirrors are definitely going to help aid in that. And then with the Taos here, you have your side mirror adjustments, lock and unlock. The mirrors are heated, and then you do get automatic adjustments for these front seats. And then as we start this up, that button is located down below. You're going to have very similar controls on the steering wheel. However, this also has a heated steering wheel too, but you have distance pacing, cruise control, volume, everything like that. And you do have a little bit more information that you can go through within the gauge cluster. Just by going through all of this, you can even pull up the navigation, and you can change the display just depending on how you want to view this information as well. So that is great to see. Now on the left side, you just have headlight adjustments. There's one air vent. And then with the infotainment system, I feel like there's a little bit more that you can go through in terms of all of these icons that you can swipe through. So you do get a little bit more. You can also customize the gauge cluster too, depending on the information that you would like to see. And then you have some other vitals that you can pull up. You can get into your nav, different apps, and you have your controls on both sides there. Now you have vents underneath that. You get heated and ventilated seats. And then there's all of the temperature adjustments. You get wireless charging with auxiliaries, your engine start stop, parking sensors, e-brake, and then you get the backup camera, and you also have a sport mode too, so you can shift using the shifter. And then you do have a few different driving modes for this model, including some off-road settings. And then you can also get into some normal settings like eco, normal, sport, and custom. So just depending on how you want that all-wheel drive system to work. You have a little bit of storage there, plenty of storage in the glove box. And then up top, you just have dome lights and controls for the sunroof and the sunshade. And then with those larger windows, it is going to be easier to see over both shoulders compared to the Honda there. But with the exteriors and interiors wrapped up for both of these smaller size SUVs, let's get them out on the road and see how they drive. And we'll start off behind the wheel with the Honda. We have it in sport mode. There's no paddle shifters or shifting. Here we go. And just a mild acceleration, and we can get up to speed. So this does have a lot more potential than what I'm doing today, but it does seem that it's just not quite as much power as you would expect from those numbers that I mentioned earlier. But this is what it's like to be behind the wheel. With the Honda here, this is a vehicle that is definitely going to see a lot of miles. Honda in general have been vehicles known for their reliability and their longevity. It's also a pretty small vehicle here, so you can easily turn around. Very maneuverable too, which is nice. So if you're looking for a vehicle that is going to last a long time and be easy to maintain, this is definitely a great option to go with. And you don't have a lot to really go through either, so it's going to be less things to break, I guess you could say, because there's not quite as much technology and things that you're starting to see in a lot of newer vehicles in today's market. But aside from the simplicity of it, it's a really nice layout with the information that you have and some of the tech features that you can use. Now, I'm not in this particular model all that often, but I did own a CRV that had just over 100,000 miles on it before I decided to trade it in. But it was a great vehicle. This is much smaller than the CRV, so if you're not looking for a large SUV, I could see this still being very, very practical. The HRV, or the CRV that I owned, was a great size. It was my wife's vehicle, and it basically did everything that we needed to for the size that it was. And I actually used that as kind of like my pickup truck. When I sold my pickup, I used that as a utility vehicle, and it was able to put in a lot of items and be well used. So a little bit smaller with this, but I could see it still being very practical too. And so jumping into the Taos now, sport mode, second gear, here we go. Now we can use the shifter, so you have that if and when you need to. Most likely you won't be using it, but it just gives it a little bit more of a sporty feel being able to do that. But this has been a very nice vehicle. Now, this is one that I have had for the week, so I have some more seat time behind the wheel and just being familiar with this vehicle and how it drives and everything. I think it's a very nice option to go with. As you can tell with some of the other competitors, there are different options and things just depending on, your budget and what you like. This vehicle seems to be very comfortable. I haven't had any issues with putting some miles on it. It's in a really good spot. We have the height adjustment for the seat, so I have about 4 inches or so of headroom at my height, 5'10", so you can adjust that just depending on your height, of course. It's also been very maneuverable too. So for its smaller size, it's very easy to park and just drive in general, but it offers a lot of space for its smaller size, and it has a lot of pickup to it as well. So definitely a great option to go with. Again, check out the full detailed review for more driving impressions for this model. So coming back to final thoughts now between the Volkswagen Taos and the Honda HRV. The Honda is going to be a little bit smaller, but it's also going to cost less, at least trim for trim, and the features that you are going to get. So if you're looking to save a little bit of money, the Honda is definitely a great option. It is going to be more basic, however, especially when you compare it to this specific Taos behind us. So it really just depends on the tech features that you are looking to get and how you want to use all of that information. Both are going to drive very nice. You will get more power from that turbo with the Volkswagen there. So that just depends again on how you want to drive your vehicle and the power that you are looking to get. The Honda is also going to be more reliable too. So if you're looking for a vehicle that is going to cost less to maintain and keep on the road, that is something to consider as well. Personally, I would probably go with the Volkswagen though, just because of that additional power that you do get. I like some of the tech features, but the Honda is definitely a great option to go with as well. So comment down below, let me know, would you rather have the Honda or the Volkswagen? Let me know. If you enjoyed today's video, give it a huge thumbs up. Consider smashing that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with our daily uploads. I will see you all in the next video.